Hey, Chris Lipe here with the isolated vocal tracks for The Sound of Silence, David Draiman, Disturbed. This version is absolutely incredible, and there's lots to pull from, particularly for us baritone singers, when it comes to dynamics, utilizing the best range that we have, and how to use both clean singing and grit and heavy distortion in our voice interchangeably. There's also some neat ways that, and they're subtle, but it's also very wet in terms of the effects that they use. So I'm excited to get into this one with you. If you want more help with your voice, you'd like me to come alongside you and be your vocal coach, you want to work on stuff like grit, distortion, expanding your range, and doing it all without tension, click the link below and request an invitation to my course, Discover Your Voice. All right, here we go.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. I've come to talk with you again, because a vision softly creeping.
All right, lower voice, rich voice, but it's more than just richness. Listen to this at the very beginning.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
Hear how he leans into friend. Hello, darkness, my old friend. He's leaning in to the resonance in his face, in his lower, calmer sounding voice. This is really important that we do this, that we learn to do this. We don't just sing when we're in our low voice. We experience the resonance and the fullness in our face. Hello, darkness, my old friend. One of the best ways to do that is to experience the nasality when we have closed off the resonance to our mouth with my and friend. Hello. And that bleeds over to when our mouth is actually open. But it's easy when we're singing low and calm to just kind of throw that away. He's not doing that. Experience the resonance in your face.
Lifted scenes while I was sleeping, and the vision that was planted in my brain.
In my brain.
And the vision.
And the vision. And the vision. He slides up to that. It's really neat. Ah, long lower larynx, open throat, open nasal passage. La 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 la. This is not la la la. He's not using compression here. He's not using a high larynx position. He's very open, almost exaggeratedly so, if I'm going to put it in my own voice. But you can tell he has this long, drawn, open sound for this entire song. And there's going to be a lot more on Disturbed on this channel, because there's a ton to dig into with David's voice. But this is one of his best performances, I think.
Still remains within the sound of silence.
Oh, even though he's so silence. And I think you can hear a little bit of pitch correction going on, which you totally can't hear in the actual track, but when you get these things isolated, you can hear a little bit of that going on. But it never bothered me in the track, or the produced track, and it doesn't really bother me here. It's just interesting to take note of.
Still remains.
You can hear it in the vibrato there.
Remains.
I love how he comes off that remains. Very soft S. Low, rich, resonant, feeling it in his face.
In restless dreams I walked alone, narrow streets of cobblestone. 'neath the halo of a street lamp.
So he has created a lot more energy here, still open, still resonant. He's taken it up a notch.
In restless dreams I walked
Love that. Walked restless dreams, I walked alone. Really lean into those notes.
'neath the halo of a street lamp. I turned my collar to the cold and damp.
Love this line. I like how he steps down.
I turned my collar to the cold.
I turn. Is it hard on set here?
I turned.
No. I turn my collar to the. I turn my collar to the. Getting those details in your voice, you might not nail it, and I'm certainly not the first time, but it's really a good thing to do for our voice, to take a line like this and, well, how did he start the line? What are the exact notes that they're using? How did he approach each note? Right here, I initially went, like that, or I swooped up to it or slid up to that. That's not what he's doing here.
I turned my collar to the.
And if I were to do that, if I were to cover this song and do that little section and that wouldn't fit. So having an ear for what fits and what doesn't based on what they're doing, I mean, he was intentional about this is part of the character or the vibe that he's going for in this song. And if I miss those things as I'm listening through, I'm cheating myself out of more opportunities with my voice, particularly when I go to record.
I turned my collar to the cold and damp.
I turn my collar to the. I turn my collar to the cold and damp.
When my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon light.
That's how he sort of lightens up there.
When my eyes were stabbed by the flash of a neon
light. He's leaning in here a bit more.
When my eyes.
When my flash. Really neat.
Let's split the night.
Let's split like that.
And touch the sound of silence.
Oh, that delay that they brought in there. They brought up the reverb and delay there.
Of silence. And in the.
Now, we've gone to the next level here. There's lots of different levels of intensity here as the music builds and as he reacts to this. So awesome.
And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking.
Okay, let's talk a little bit about the effects here because they play a role in the earlier part of the song, but they're really prominent here, and they get more wet as he gets more into it. He's using a combination of different reverbs and this really neat band-limited delay. I want to put something similar on my voice, and I encourage you to use what I've done here as sort of a template to experiment with your own voice. This kind of effect chain is really fun to sing through, especially as you start to lean into it the way he does on this track.
And in the naked light I saw
Who still remains
is never shared.
and in the sound of silence. So the first thing I've done is I've added a bit more compression and saturation to my voice. It brings it up into the center of the mix, up front, brings up the presence a little bit, added a little bit of high end here, and I've added a little bit of distortion. So as I dig in, like he digs in, the the sound doesn't get harsher, it gets warmer. If I bypass this, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. Really a neat addition. Subtle, but cool. Then I've added test, 1, 2, a very short room reverb. Now, if you've watched some of my other videos, you've seen a similar chain before. But this is a very short room reverb. It just puts a little bit of space around the initial vocal. Widens it a bit without feeling like I'm wetting it much. Then I've created a hall. And this is a lot of what you hear reverb-wise on this track. So if I go here, it's the same reverb plugin. I've just switched it to a hall. I've boosted the highs just a little bit, turned down the lows. So we have a bit of sibilance, but the sibilance doesn't get in the way. Test, test. You don't hear like a bunch. You hear a tiny bit of that, but you do on his track as well. Then, and this is, I think, the most fun to sing into, we have a delay. And this isn't exactly like what he's got on the track, but it's really fun to sing with. I think he's got something pretty similar. We'll start. I have band limited this to get rid of the repeat sibilance. If I take this off, sibilance, start. We hear too many S's. You don't hear that in his track. Listen.
And in the naked light I saw.
You only heard one S. Just like mine. Next, I've got this set up to sync with the tempo of the song. But I've got an eighth note delay on one side. And I've got a quarter note delay on the other side. And what this allows me to do is get this real widening ambient effect. There's lots of different ways to do this, but this is what I'm hearing on this track. He might not have it timed to eighth notes and quarter notes, but it's definitely wider than in the center. And it makes it awfully fun to sing. Not as fun to talk into, maybe.
And in the naked light I saw 10,000 people, maybe more. People talking without speaking.
Notice how the delay finishes the phrase. It's really neat and it makes you feel free to sing and really get into the textures that your voice creates. Strongly recommended. I'm going to bypass it for a minute as I talk about some of this stuff here.
People talking without speaking.
Listen to how he steps up there. He adds a very small H. Without speaking. I'm exaggerating it a little bit. That little H creates this sense of percussion and engagement that wouldn't otherwise be there. Also notice he has gone up in his range and he is very intentionally clean. There's no strain going on. We're going to hear in a minute that he's going to take this exact range and he's going to just roast it. Really, really compelling.
People hearing without listening. People writing songs that voices never share.
Have voices. Now he's longer. Listen to his. But also listen to how nasal that is. Have voices. Clean, nasal, crowish. That's helping him reach that without strain. He's not just simply going. Have voices. No. Have voices. That's freer. That's freer. Feeling, it's a little bit thinner. You notice I didn't have to do this as much.
And no one dared disturb the sound.
Ooh, I love that. Listen.
Disturb the sound.
Head voice. Very good closure, confident head voice. Disturb the sound. No. Disturb the sound. Disturb the sound of silence.
Of silence.
Okay.
Fool said you do not know. Silence like a cancer grows.
Oh, listen here.
Fool said
Fool. He's at a whole other level of authority here.
Fool said you do not know.
Fool said you do not know. Like you're getting ready to flex and lift a large boulder. There's this sense of like, huh. So if you make that sound, huh, it's going to help you position your voice the way that he's making this part of the song work.
Hear my words that I might teach you. Take my arms that I might reach you.
Ew, there's this sense that he is. There's a bit of... Now, some might consider this to be yarling. I refer to it as manipulating the back of your tongue. You're almost cupping your tongue a little bit. Definitely doing some of that. And that's just part of the genre that he was part of.
Hear my words that I might teach you.
It's also a way, as he gets more authoritative, to make him sound a little beefier, but he's not going over the top here, I don't think. And you can tell with this line,
Take my arms that I might.
take my arms, and then he kind of gets back down into that. But he's allowing himself freedom of airflow. A big problem with this type of singing is that sometimes it causes us to tense our throat because we're trying to maintain this tone and our jaw gets all tense. But you don't have to do it that way. You can simply picture your tongue as cupping a little bit, and it places the resonance a bit further back in your soft palate area. And if you leave your nasal passage open, you're able to still get really, really good resonance.
But my words, like silent raindrops, fell.
Incredible use, breaking into grit here. I love that he can sing the same stuff really gritty and really clean. I'm going to turn on my effects here and lean into this line.
But my words, like silent raindrops, fell.
Okay, right here.
But my words,
But my words.
but my
Words. Very wide open. But my starts with the here.
but my
Feels that resonance in his face. But my words. But my words.
like silent,
Let's get that grit.
like
Silence. Yeah.
like silent raindrops fell.
Like silent raindrops fell. So I've got the arc. Now let's make it my own. But my words, like silent raindrops fell.
And echoed in the wells of silence,
So nasal there.
of silence.
Again, that closed end silence. Now he really starts to nail it.
And the people bowed and prayed to the neon god they made. And the sign flashed out its warning.
All right, let's talk a little bit more about his grit.
And the people bowed and prayed.
This is not simply pushing harder and harder until your voice breaks up. He's using compression, which I've talked a lot about on the channel. Lifting something heavy, letting the area above your larynx constrict air. So you are pushing more, but you're also holding back air. You're not just getting louder and louder and going hard on your vocal cords. The other thing is, listen.
And the people bowed and prayed.
He's got this really open parade. We have to make sure we get the tone, the bass tone, before we layer this compression over it. Because if we don't, we're going to sound more like this.
And the people bowed.
And the people bowed and prayed. Like our tone is all over the place. It doesn't fit. It's like we've got our gritty voice and then we've got our clean voice. He's merging them together within the same voice, the same general tone. That's key. And as you add more energy, you have to be attentive to your tone first before you add the grit over it.
And the people bowed and prayed.
So let's get there.
And the people bowed and prayed.
And the people bowed and prayed. He really grits it up, so he's compressing more.
And
the people bowed and prayed. Prayed. Mine's a little thicker than his, my grit. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to raise that sensation in my throat. A lot more on this in my courses.
And the people bowed and prayed.
It's going to thin that grit out. It's going to make it more instead of gurgly. And the people bowed and prayed. Prayed as opposed to prayed. Bowed and prayed.
To the neon god they made.
To the neon god they made. Now, he's got that beautiful clean harmony behind it. This is so key.
To the neon god.
To the neon god
They made.
they made. He's not just totally frying his voice higher. He's leaving that beefy, gritty, like bohemian sort of sound. To the neon god they made. Followed by much cleaner. To the neon. No, not that clean. To the neon god they made. That contrast and that blend is huge for this section. And that harmony comes in and out.
And the sign flashed out its warning.
Warning!
And the words that it was forming.
I like here with this.
That it was.
Was. Exaggerate that kind of thing. What I'm doing there, I am creating an opportunity to abandon very temporarily into my vocal break, which you've heard me talk about before. Was. And he's really, if you listen,
It was.
was. You can do it that way by simply adding more compression. Once in a while, if you really want to go from clean to dirty, do this. Was, and lean into that break. As that break tightens and you lean into it more, was. It's not exactly what he's doing there, but you can hear little bits of that throughout And it's a great way to center this more extreme grit in addition to compression.
That it was forming, in the signs and the words of the prophets are written on the subway walls.
This part right here is amazing, amazingly performed.
Written on the subway.
Written on the subway walls. But much grittier, but he's getting those vowels right. He's
Written,
not written on the subway, which when you're high and thick like this, particularly for a lower voice like David's, the tendency is to sort of meld your vowels together.
written
on subway walls. Written on subway walls. Hey. It's not quite that gritty. Start clean. Written on, and add a little bit of grit. Let that compression take over, invoke that vocal break just a little bit. Written on subway walls. Yes.
in tenement halls,
In tenement halls.
and whispered in the sound of silence.
Silence. Silence. Let's practice that arc down.
And whispered in the sound.
Whisper, whisper, whisper in the sound of silence. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being a part of my channel and for liking my videos and subscribing and requesting cool songs like this one. Thanks to you, I'm able to keep doing what I do. I love it. I love you guys. We'll see you for more.